Hey guys, it's Nature Nate. Before we start the episode, just wanted to say I hope you're all well, hope you're safe. We wanted to share a little bit more about our sponsor who's trying to help the world right now with their work. This pandemic has affected everyone. To get through this, we all need to work together. Cypress River Advisors, with their deep cross-border sourcing and manufacturing knowledge, are providing PPEs for free to medical professionals and communities in need. They're providing protective equipment in New York, California, Michigan, and Japan. They're also providing data visualizations to help make policymakers and the public understand the real impacts of the pandemic. For more information, go to cypressriveradvisors.com/COVID-19. Hey, Yu-Chen. What are we recording today?
So I guess I'm editing this interview you did almost 1 year ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm Nature Nate, and we went to an e-waste facility in Brea, California. And our trip was sponsored by Cypress River Advisors.
Wait, pause. What's e-waste? And why is this factory producing them?
Oh, Yu-Chen. This factory isn't producing them. That's Samsung. Samsung produces e-waste. And what is e-waste? Well, e-waste is just an electrical or an electronic device that is thrown away. And the facility we went to doesn't actually manufacture anything. In fact, they disassemble things. They collect and process e-waste like old computers, monitors, TVs, stuff, and they process it for recycling so it can be turned into new products. And the company's called Corporate E-Waste Solutions, or CEWS, or CEWS. Not sure about the last one, but the other names are right.
E-waste comes from anywhere you can imagine, like transfer stations, where colleges, just anywhere.
Being in the world of recycling and seeing TVs just left on the street is not a great feeling because we know where those materials end up needing to be.
Raymond and John gave us a tour of their facility and explained what it takes to actually process and recycle e-waste. You might be asking yourself, Nate, why should I listen to this episode? Well, everything you buy will someday become trash. You are creating electronic waste right now by listening to this podcast, unless you are somehow listening to this without an electronic device, in which case, please send me an email because that's very interesting. But seriously, electronic waste is a huge problem, toxic, damaging. It's not like a plastic bottle, you know. Lead, arsenic, copper, heavy metals, and it's all just going out in the environment, messing stuff up. And even when it is recycled, sometimes it can be recycled badly. People just huddled over a big cauldron, burning computers, huffing in plastic waste to try and extract the precious metals. So it's really important to understand how electronics are disposed of so then we can make better decisions when we are buying them, such as buying used or reused. But you'll find more about that out in the episode. In the first part of this episode, you hear us walking through the warehouse part of their facility where they have boxes and rows and cartons full of e-waste like monitors and computers. Then in the next part, you'll hear us talking about their disassembly facility where they do things like drill holes inside of motherboards and hard drives. Then for the second part of the show, we'll sit down with Raymond and John from CEWS and just talk about what it's like to run an e-waste company. What are the challenges? What are the roles of government? Do subsidies help or hurt? But be warned, for the second part, there's a lot of beeps and boops. That's just part of the ambience. It's like Star Trek. Okay, play the play the tape. Boop. Are we recording? We do some walking and talking?
We're going to talk more about that one later.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Oh, wow, this is huge. We're here today at Corporate E-Waste Solutions, and we're here with John and Raymond. And who are you guys? What do you do? What are you doing here?
Okay, my name is Raymond Yu, and I work in business development and marketing.
My name is John Kim, and I do the environmental health and safety here and compliance. Also, I lead the sales team.
And I'm Nature Nate. And let's go check out this big warehouse of electronic waste. Electronic treasure.
So where would you like to start?
What's your favorite waste? What's your favorite part to start with?
Yeah, let's go. We'll start from the receiving, and then we'll show you how the stream of material comes in and where it ends up.
Awesome. We're walking through. It feels like a Home Depot that's been scraped out and replaced with electronics. Computer monitors, stuff I don't understand, plugs, computer casings, a lot of computer stuff, pallets, an office chair. You guys recycle office chairs, or that's just accidentally here?
We take in anything that an office will give us. If they need us to take their desks and chairs, we'll take them with their e-waste. But we don't normally specifically only take their office furniture.
Okay, so you're aiming for the computer parts.
Exactly. Watch your step. So this is where we'll go ahead and receive the material. Either our trucks ourselves or third-party logistics team will bring in the material. Our team will unload the trucks, weigh them, tag them, and put them in the staging area over on this side. On a daily average, 4 to 5 truckloads. So that's around 15,000 pounds each truck.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of waste.
What is that? Is it like 75,000 pounds of e-waste?
Of e-waste.
Coming through every day.
Wow. And there's a truck coming in right now.
Yeah.
And so you're going to load this truck up with this stuff that you're going to send back out again?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
maybe we can get to that later.
Show you.
Dock, you know.
Typical loading dock. There's forklifts moving around with pallets. There's bundles of TV screens wrapped up in pink saran wrap and magenta saran wrap. It's fun. Looks fun. Fun for someone like me, anyway. Cool. That's the sound. Step over the TV, step over the pallets. How many types of e-waste facilities are this in California? Do you have any big competitors, or?
I know that all the e-waste facilities can be looked up on a website called Cal Recycle. So it basically will list out all the recyclers.
Those are the state certified
Correct.
recycling body.
They're up in Sacramento.
So they're collected from anywhere imaginable. Like we get a lot of landfill customers, like transfer stations where clients or their residents will come by and drop off the waste at their facilities. They'll collect it and then we'll go out there ourselves, or we'll send a third-party logistics company out there to load up the trucks and bring it back.
It's like a MRF, and they're just getting normal mixed recycling, and they're like, oh, computer.
Exactly.
They have enough. They call you up and say.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we also collect from school districts, colleges, college campuses.
Colleges love just
computers, anywhere.
TVs. Yeah, students buy a TV and then leave.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. E-waste comes from anywhere you can imagine. So.
And if you look around your local neighborhoods, you'll see a lot of promoted e-waste collections. So they typically go almost every weekend in different cities. And so there's obviously other competitors. Maybe they might work with the grocery chains. You know, anywhere where there's a large parking lot, typically electronic recyclers will want to work with those organizations where vehicles can just drive up and drop off their items and then be on their way.
Cool. People just might see like shipping containers, sort of setups inside of their grocery store parking lot. And that's e-waste, right? That's the e-waste collection. They've heard about it. Maybe they forget to take their e-waste. What's your like favorite type of waste to get? Like, is there like, oh yeah, sweet, like keyboards? Oh, that's like gold. Like,
yeah,
like
most of the time those
monitors
commodities are the precious metals, which are found inside the cell phones and the motherboards of computers.
So printed circuit board computer stuff is better than like a bunch of fans.
Correct.
Okay.
Those fans would be considered miscellaneous e-waste, and so for many electronic recyclers, they're not really so much going after that. But that comes with, in order to make the whole process go smoothly.
Okay.
You know, we sometimes have to take in even batteries too, even though we don't want to really deal with batteries.
Like diversified electronic waste.
Or light bulbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Throughout the years, I've seen like the older model Apple Macintosh computers come out through the stream.
Like the colored ones?
Like
or like the really old ones?
Like the first, second models.
Oh, wow.
I've seen those in the stream. I see a lot of interesting like old electronics come through. So as you can see, what they do is they'll go ahead and unload the truck, weigh it, tag it, and then bring it back to the staging area. Once inside the staging area, they'll take it over to the other side where the materials will get dismantled. So we'll walk over there.
I keep telling people this is about maybe 4 to 5 football fields.
It feels like it. And this is the dismantling area? I bet this would be pretty loud if it was on.
Yes, it is. Once the materials come to the dismantle area, we'll have them unloaded on top of the conveyor belt, kind of like airport luggage carrier. It'll go around. The employees on the side dismantling tables will scoop one TV up, slide it over, and start dismantling everything out.
Oh, and those are like little work tables next to the conveyor belt.
Exactly. And the main purpose is that we dismantle it to the lowest component. We don't want the glass, which in the CRTs, the older tube TVs, have lead inside the glass itself. That's what we're trying to keep out of the landfill, because once that goes in, the lead can leach into the groundwater source, and the other components such as printed circuit boards, they also have like lead and solder, gold, silver, copper in them. So we're trying to extract that as well and smelt out those precious metals and reuse it.
So for the electronic waste, it's kind of like you're just separating the plastic, kind of worthless components of the shell with the valuable metals, and then also separating out the hazardous.
Exactly. So when you guys buy it, it's put together, and when you guys get rid of it, we take it all apart.
Okay.
In a sense.
Could you like take your own electronic waste apart? Yeah. You wouldn't recommend that?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
Just,
Listeners, don't take apart your TV.
So once it gets dismantled, all the parts gets thrown onto this conveyor belt. It'll go down, they'll sort everything out and leave it into like a box of printed circuit boards, a box of plastics, a box of metal,
like a box of cables. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you go out throughout the warehouse, you'll see different boxes with different single type of commodities in them.
Yeah, so it starts with this sort of saran wrap tower of computer monitors. That'll go on the conveyor belt, and then it'll turn into a box of printed circuit boards, whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, have you guys like thought about using robots, or is this just not something a robot could do because all the electronics are so different?
They have automated systems for the flat screen TVs. I guess it's easier to do automated dismantling procedures on those type of materials.
Okay.
But as far as the CRTs, there aren't, just because you don't want to break the glass and
because then you have all the lead everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then the robots dismantle themselves. At the end of the day.
That's a good idea. So if you come down here, I'll show you where.
So for listeners, just imagine just a sea of boxes, a sea of a lot of different electronics. There's stacks of flat screen TVs, just many stacks of flat screen TVs.
So in your flat screen TVs, they're usually lit up by these fluorescent lamps right here. This is what we retrieve out of
wow. Actually pull those out
of the flat screens, and they get sent to a lamp recycler where they'll do the mercury retort on this. So they'll shred it up, extract all the mercury, and then reuse it or dispose of it properly.
The lamp that would be inside of a flat screen TV, it looks sort of like a long, thin glass straw, I guess, kind of.
And most of these are probably from residentials that have brought them back. I remember one time we had a project to remove out about 5,000 heavier TVs.
Okay, so you go in and you like take the TV out of the room. It's not like they take it out first. It's not that easy.
There's usually another team that handles the installation of the new TVs, but because we're the recyclers, we're bringing them all out, putting them into these huge produce boxes and palletizing it.
When you mean palletizing it, you just like smashing it?
Palletizing, placing the TVs into these big produce boxes.
Okay.
And then we use the wrap to wrap around so that it won't move around when being transported.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I mean, these boxes, a lot of them seem to be from farms. Are you recycling the boxes too?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a company that reuse these cardboard boxes.
There's multiple levels of recycling going on here.
Correct.
There's a Halloween ghost up there. Is that part of the scenery, or is it going to be recycled someday and it's just out of reach?
That was probably left from Halloween, just not taken down.
Just for fun. Okay.
The tricky part is to figure out how to collect all the material to come back. In California, there's a lot of storage facilities.
Like storage wars, like your own little box of stuff that you don't.
And so there have been some companies in the past where they've even partnered with the self-storages to use some of their space as collection points. You can imagine there's a lot of U-Hauls facilities.
Sure.
So with U-Haul and with trucking, sometimes comes electronics as well. But the tricky thing about electronics is if you want to leave metal bins or heavy-duty plastic bins around, typically you want to leave it in an enclosed place with security. Otherwise, you have those individuals, that don't mind their business and try to go into your trash to collect items.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there's like e-waste pirates. Like if you ever have to, because I know some people, unethical people, maybe are stripping copper wire. Do you ever like deal with e-waste pirates? I don't know what to call them.
I mean,
robbers?
you'll see it on the streets. Sometimes there'll be TVs just left on the streets, but then you'll just see that the shell is only there and taking the material from the inside. So that
people just driving around looking for junk and then stripping it out.
Yes, it is common.
Okay. That doesn't sound like an efficient way to do it, though.
It's definitely not, and it's not.
You're just doing it on the street. I mean, and there's just crap everywhere.
Being in the world of recycling and seeing TVs just left on the street is not a great feeling because we know where those materials end up needing to be.
This is the glass. This is the glass from the CRT. This is the back portion of the glass right here, where it's black and coated. That's where the lead is lead coating.
Oh.
The front part has phosphorus.
Okay, cool. And yeah, and then for our listeners, CRTs are fat. They're, they're dense. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, you don't want to touch it.
Yeah, I don't want to touch the lead. Okay.
So the downstream for these, one goes straight to a glass smelter where they throw the glass inside of a furnace and extract the lead and then reuse the lead. The second source is they'll separate the front panel and they'll send the back funnel panel to a lead smelter. And then the front glass panel, they'll scrub the phosphorus off and make sure it's clean glass, and then they'll just throw it into a landfill at that point, after everything's reassured that there's no phosphorus left on the glass itself.
Okay. Is there a reason that like once the glass is cleaned of phosphorus, it goes to landfill? I mean, is it just not economic to recycle that glass?
Yeah, so if you're looking at it, I would say 5-10 years ago, there's still high demand for the CRT glass. So when I started back in 2009, we were sending to a place called Videocon in India, and they were reusing the glass to make new CRT glass. But they closed down, and now we only have the options of sending it to a lead smelter that extracts the lead. Or California passed a law not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, allowing for that process to be sent to a landfill as clean glass.
Okay, but that's not like glass that you could reuse. It's like special CRT glass.
Exactly.
Okay.
There has been technology or methods used where they take the glass cutlets and try to reuse it for like road pavement and mix it with concrete.
Yeah.
But California, very strict in environmental law, so they don't allow for that.
Okay. So really it depends on the final end use and the final end demand of that market, whether or not that product can be recycled in a profitable way.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, the best way to go is through the lead smelter, but it's costly. So that's why a lot of recyclers these days send the front panel to a landfill. Yeah,
landfilling is cheap, right? That's like the cheapest option.
Exactly.
Maybe not the best, but it's the cheapest.
Exactly.
Ooh. Nate, put your hand in the e-waste. Feels like ribbon wire. Whoever named it was a genius. Kind of reminds me of digging through Legos a little bit. Really thin, ribbony Legos. This is now an ASMR podcast about touching trash. These are printed circuit boards from, this looks like a monitor?
Yes.
Nice jade-colored printed circuit board. Little bits of silver. There's still a little bit of plastic mixed in with metal casing. Maybe some copper wire bundled up on the back. I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't know what this is really. So anything else to see in the dismantling area?
As far as dismantling, that's it.
Okay, just the conveyor belt, the workbenches, and then just the dismantled final product.
Wish you guys came when we were operating. Okay.
Right. We found Acer. We found a Taiwanese brand. We've moved away from the MSIs over there. Don't worry, gamers. Your stuff's getting recycled.
We're an R2 certified recycler, so we use the R2 model, which is reuse, reduce, recycle. So instead of just sending everything to end of life, we try to reuse and reintroduce into the market.
What's the metric for that? I mean, how much can you get out of an old TV and
it
certain key components?
Depends on the part, exactly, like the main board or any type of circuit board that's reusable. That if you go to a TV repair shop, they'll probably need a part.
Right.
That's where our main customers will be.
Okay. And do you do cell phones as well, or like mobile phones? Because everything's been kind of big so far that we've seen.
We do get cell phones. We have them locked up somewhere, only because they have proprietary information on them. So
people's personal data.
Exactly. So we lock them up. We keep them locked up until we can either erase them or destroy them.
Oh, okay.
And that's our next stop is our IT area where your hard drives, your laptops, the data will get removed and wiped and recycled at the same time.
Cool.
We'll show you.
Great. Show me how to wipe my data, please. Okay, now we're leaving the warehouse and we're entering. Going behind a locked door. Into, looks like a computer repair shop.
This is our data secured area. This is where the hard drives are extracted. We do the testing of laptops, computers, monitors over here for the resale portion.
They're like big Lego bricks. They're a hard drive. If you don't know what it looks like, you should learn about computers.
We do the data wiping over here on this section.
So you're checking these computers to see if they're usable, kind of like what you do with the TVs, and then whatever parts you can pull out of the laptop.
Only if our clients allow us to.
Oh, okay.
80 to 90% of the material coming in, they require destruction of the hard drives. So we'll pull out the hard drives, we'll put them through our data erasing machine. It uses multiple languages to write over the hard drives. So we use DoD standard triple pass. So it'll pass once with zeros or whatever, and then the next pass will be one, the next pass will be two, so the data will be hard to retrieve out of there.
Oh, okay.
It does handle up to 7 pass for those clients who are extra sensitive about their data. And we also, once it passes, we'll drill a hole in the hard drive, or we'll send it to a shredder itself.
That's a lot of data wiping. I thought you might just drill a hole or just like use a magnet or something. I didn't realize you'd wipe it and then also destroy it.
Yes, we wipe it and destroy it. So
Wow.
a lot of government agencies ask for the triple pass, 7 pass DoD standard wipes along with the hard drive destruction, physical destruction itself. So we have, companies who don't mind us reusing the hard drives, companies who do want us to physically destroy the hard drives. So we have a mixture of both.
Yeah, the data wiping machine looks like, I don't know, a server kind of? Big fridge?
So it has multiple ports for multiple hard drives. We're getting a couple more to add on. So
Because you're wiping so much that you
Exactly.
need. Okay. I mean, what's like the bottleneck for the e-waste processing? Is it getting the waste at the front end, or is it, I guess, here with the hard drives and the more kind of technical components? What's like the tricky part, I guess?
tricky part is trying to get your clients to trust your company to do the right thing with their data. So
IT managers, they typically want to work with someone that they know or at least have some tie to, rather than just a complete stranger.
Right. You don't want to give over potentially sensitive data or even just whatever data to just some random guys. Oh, we'll get rid of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's also been cases where IT managers have actually brought their hard drives to witness them get destroyed or put through some sort of shredder.
So the triple pass usually takes an hour or 2 hours, depending on the size of the hard drive as well. Anything, I think, 1 terabyte and over is a couple hours.
Cool.
Most of these hard drives are manufactured out of Asia.
What's made in the U.S. anymore? and then I guess, yeah, actually you drill the hard drive and then take out the valuable components, or what do you do with the hard drives then?
So the hard drives, we remove the printed circuit board first or send it to a shredder. After that, it's just metal. It's just copper, aluminum, magnets. There's a magnet in there as well.
And do companies want to buy that, or?
Some companies do ask for the magnet, that one little piece.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting. And you got a computer just spread open here. Someone's having fun.
So have you guys been to other recyclers, or are we the first electronics recycler?
You're the first electronics recycler for the show that I've been to.
Okay.
But then in Asia, normally what I would go to would be more of the processing side. So where they take the metals and like the post-consumer, like the printed circuit board itself, and then melt that down. But they're like, we just buy from the US. So
Okay.
it's fun to come to the like pre-processing stage, I guess.
Well, I do, invite you guys back after we set up more. So like I said, we're getting the shredder. We're expanding the IT area. So
okay.
if you guys are ever back in the area, you guys are always welcome.
We'll come back for the shredder. Come back for more sounds. Okay. Fun tour. In case you haven't heard, we revamped our Patreon. And as a part of that update, we now acknowledge the people who give us money. So I'd like to welcome our new patrons, Joseph, Emily, Max, and Lee. And also thank you, Daniel, for upping your donation each month. We like that. You get to talk to me on the phone. I'm waiting. Please call me. Please call me, Daniel. If anyone wants to call me, they can. I'm so lonely. How do I get out of this studio? All right, we've finished our tour, and now we're inside of the meeting room with Raymond and John. We're going to talk about e-waste. We're going to talk about what's going on, what this company is, what they're doing, and maybe what's going to be happening long term, and maybe why it's so difficult to recycle a computer in certain states. So first, what is CEWS? How did you guys get started? How long have you been around? What's kind of, can you give me a little bit of the background of where we are?
Sure. So the company itself, they started off originally brokering e-waste. So they would purchase the e-waste from local recyclers, collectors, and they would just ship them over to a company in either Hong Kong or Indonesia. They slowly transitioned into following the California State program, so that they could dismantle all the e-waste in-house. And we've been doing that process for almost a year now.
Okay, so it sounds like a big part of this new expansion, this company itself, is this Cal Recycle program. Could you tell me a little bit about that? What is that? Is that like some benefit for throwing away a computer?
So the Cal Recycle program is basically a government agency designating collectors or recyclers, approving them to handle your e-waste. They have a program set up currently for displays, which are TVs, monitors, that's collected within the state of California by end users who purchased and live in California.
Okay, so this is like an extended producer responsibility, EPR model. Correct. Where you have to pay into this recycling fund, and then
Correct.
different recyclers can apply or bid, and then get a rebate back. So maybe listeners are familiar with the bottle rebates. You know, your little glass bottle says 5 cents.
Correct.
And now invisibly, or maybe there is some indicator. Is there an indicator on computer monitors that says like California rebate?
When you purchase the monitor or TV, you'll see a California e-waste tax, the fee that you pay. I just purchased the TV not too long ago, and it is clearly written out on there.
Okay. So you buy your TV, you use it a little bit, and then you want to throw it out, or maybe you're a company and you have thousands of TVs. How would those TVs get to CEWS?
So
Corporate e-waste solutions. That's actually weirdly easier to say that.
There you go. So basically, we have different options. We hold collection events where we'll go out to the local community, set up shop, have the people drive by, drop off their e-waste to us, and we'll bring them back to our facility and recycle what needs to be recycled.
Okay. Raymond, do you want to add anything on?
Sometimes companies expect or demand things to be done for them for free. But as we all know, California in general, or even Southern California, Los Angeles, is a very difficult city to get around sometimes.
Traffic, cars,
exactly, trucks. We have small streets too. Not all the trucks can go everywhere or even through downtown LA. So that's the tricky part. And so bringing all these materials out from their buildings too, there has to be insurance sometimes involved. But in the end, we're more than willing to make it work.
So it's not actually free to get rid of your electronic waste. You can't just, a lot of
it's done in a case-by-case scenario. Like, for example, if a company in a particular city wanted us to just go and pick up like 600 or 700 laptops, more than likely we would wipe out the transportation fee because a collection of that amount doesn't necessarily happen too often.
Okay. And you had just said that the cost is a major issue, and also that you do all of California for e-waste collection. Is there some reason you don't do other states? Because, do other states have programs like this? Is there some kind of link up? Is there like a California-Arizona e-waste network?
So there are certain states that do have these recycling programs, and there are certain states that don't. And for you to qualify for those programs, you have to be a recycler within the state.
Okay, so there's no interstate e-waste recycling.
From my knowledge, things might have changed, but as far as I know, you have to be California to be included under the California program, Recycling program. Those programs do help out with the participation level on recycling. I remember when I first started in the industry, there were only a handful of states that were in the program. But now there are multiple states that have grown and implemented and adapted to providing e-waste programs like this.
Okay. Have there been any trends that you've seen that increase the amount of e-waste that you get? Is there any, like, maybe in the last year or 2 years, is there anything like that helps you guys get more e-waste? Is there like state policies, or, like Leonardo DiCaprio said, let's all recycle our laptops? Is there anything like that that's happened that you've seen like a bump, or it's just stable?
It's stable. It depends on the material that's coming in. Like, for example, the CRTs, I didn't see an influx until a lot more flat screens were more, I guess, lower pricing for consumers to purchase more, get rid of the older models and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's kind of like a technology trend that might be driving e-waste, and then you guys get to see all the old models, like the vintage collection.
You see that a lot with cell phones, laptops. Newer models come out, you see the older models come in more. So.
Okay. And is there any role that manufacturers play? Do you guys work directly with like the manufacturers of electronic equipment?
I know that most of the tech shows, that's when the manufacturers showcase their products. Like, for example, CES in Las Vegas, or in Taiwan, I think it's called Computex in June.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like CSR reps for different e-waste companies. I was just curious if there was like some relationship with a specific manufacturer, or if you guys are just sort of foraging and collecting these
I know
materials.
that in the past few years at trade shows, there have been more panels on sustainability because it is concerning.
Okay.
As for bridging between companies and recyclers, it's tough because the world is so huge. Unless you're going to be in a particular city, would it really make sense, I suppose? Okay. Or at a forum or recycling type of conference, then I guess that would make sense because everybody's there all at once.
Okay. So what technology do you commonly see? Like, what kind of brands do you commonly see? This isn't like a promotion for them or anything. I'm just curious. There's like a California trend.
We definitely see a lot of Samsung, flat screen, Samsung, LG. Also brands like Acer, Asus.
Go Taiwan. Okay.
Yeah. And MSI.
Sort of the big brand. Do you see a lot of Apple products? I guess when we were going through, everything seemed to be sort of non-Apple. Does Apple they do their own thing?
Yeah, Apple does have their own. From my knowledge, they do have their own recycling program for their phones and their laptops and their computers. We still get a stream of it coming in, but not as much. There are manufacturers who do have their own recycling programs in place. I know LG does, Samsung does, but you see all types of manufacturers. It doesn't matter if it's Sony, Samsung. There's not one manufacturer that has a larger stream coming in, but it's just a mix.
Oh, okay, interesting. So it just kind of comes and goes. There's no, because I mean, I guess if you saw less of one brand, right, you could either assume it's not popular or they just last a long time. But I guess we're not going to reveal those secrets today.
Yeah, no. I mean, ratio-wise, we don't get like 100 Sonys compared to one Samsung or anything like that.
Okay,
it's all mixture. It's all the same amount from what I noticed out there.
Okay, interesting. And then I think a lot of people are curious, if you can talk about what happens to the e-waste after it leaves your facility, because you process it down to kind of these component levels, right? We talked about the ribbon wire and the printed circuit boards and the light tubes and the LEDs.
That's correct. So every material that comes into our warehouse gets dismantled and separated to the lowest commodity: plastics, metals, wires. And those get sent over to our partner companies, whether they're in Japan or Canada, where most of the circuit boards end up, where they smelt out the precious metals out of them, as well as the copper and all the other environmentally unsafe metals. I guess the plastics will go to Mexico. The metals will go to either Indonesia, or processed metals will go into China for remanufacturing.
So it's an entire supply chain all over again, basically. So you're kind of just going backwards all the way back to the base level of the raw material. Then if it's a metal anyway, it can be remade into electronics.
Exactly. So it's kind of like the cradle to grave to cradle.
Yeah. They didn't write that book, the cradle to cradle, but they missed the cradle to grave to cradle again. Yeah. It comes back to life.
Exactly. So.
And do you follow the waste? How do you know where, or you just sell it to the companies? I mean, are there requirements under California law? Is it just your own due diligence that you guys just want to make sure you're doing the right thing?
It's our own due diligence. We're R2 certified, meaning that any material coming in, any material going to our downstreams is vetted. So our downstream companies are vetted. We make sure that they're insured. We make sure that they have all their environmental permits and regulations. We have the importing licenses from the countries that are being sent to. Like, if we did send like a fully functioning piece of electronic device, we would have to make sure that company has an import license to receive that material. If it's the bare commodity like copper or printed circuit boards, we also have to make sure that the company receiving the printed circuit boards has the import license, but we follow the downstream as much as we can.
Okay. Because I know some consumers, just some people in general are like, are those China e-waste villages still a thing where people are like, boiling printed circuit boards in pots? And it sounds like, maybe, but it's not widespread.
The sad part is it can be still, present.
Sure. Down the line, they could just do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's where our downstream vetting helps us make sure that the material is flowing to a place where it's being treated in a proper manner, where it's a facility, not the backyard, where they're using machines and high-grade mechanical features instead of using open fire, burning the circuit board, trying to melt out the metals that way. So, we do our due diligence.
Okay. And what are you seeing as future trends? Do you see recycling in California increasing? This law sounds like it's relatively new, or at least like some of the improvements to it. Is things getting better? Things getting worse? What's the future of e-waste looking like?
Well, hopefully it's increasing because I need my job. No, I need to keep my job. But yeah,
keep John employed, everyone. Turn in your computers.
So thank you. But yeah, we're seeing an uptick in recycling trends. A lot of people are going green. The newer millennials are green.
We are, yeah.
They want to see everything recycled. They don't want to see us ruining the environment. And just people like you guys are helping us spread the word out on responsible recycling. And I think you guys are doing a great job at that.
So you're saying, I guess, that like the consumer trends do matter. That if people are concerned about the recycling for their e-waste, or they put pressure on the state, or they put pressure on computer companies, there is something that happens. It's not just like
there are,
yeah.
And there are like third party organizations such as BAN who really care about where the material ends up. So they do keep an eye out on where these electronic devices are ending up, how they're being treated, and that facility is sending it downstream. So we're getting a lot of feedback from everyone.
Okay.
To help out.
Is there anything else? Anything else you guys want to add? Anything else you want to say?
I can say that what seems to be popular is a lot of individuals outside of the U.S. try to reach out to us.
Oh, really?
Because they want the material.
Oh, really? So you get like requests for, hey, you got any wire?
Because a lot of individuals are thinking of the resale value. And there's even conferences now, like buyback conferences for IT equipment at different grades.
Okay. So you want to be able to process e-waste and make sure that it's a high grade and it's worth more money. If you just give someone like a bunch of wire not sorted, it's not very valuable.
Most of the individuals are coming after the cell phones and the laptops, anything with precious metals and the ability to reuse.
Okay. Anything the common man wants to know? You just bought it. You have a TV sitting in your house. What are you going to do with that?
Most people are posting things online to their community. If they don't exactly know how to get rid of it, they're just hoping somebody else will come and pick it up from them. But you're right. The knowledge is not quite there.
Why is that information not accessible?
It should be information that most people should know about. Like, for example, when you walk out of a Best Buy or IKEA or a Home Depot, they have their own sections or areas where they do encourage people to dump their wastes. However, majority of individuals, especially at these tech conferences, they're all into the new products and whatever's coming out, and they're not that concerned about the world of recycling as much.
So what I'm hearing is that we have one state, California, very populous, very wealthy state, very large state. We have one regulatory body, CalRecycle. I don't know how well funded they are, but they probably can't compete with TV and Twitter and Netflix and every other source of content and information. So they're probably trying to tell people, maybe in school, people roughly know. I remember there was a website like Earth 911 or something where you could call or not call, but you could go on the internet and see where to recycle stuff. I remember there were recycling drives when I was living in the US, like at a grocery store. Did those still happen? Is it just like a matter of people listening to this podcast and learning that there are options for their e-waste? Or is it, how do you tell people?
So that's part of what we try to integrate within our corporation. We try to educate the community around us as much as possible on how to recycle, where to recycle, and what you can expect from recycling. So we hold a lot of collection events. We tend to hold them a lot with high schools by giving them a portion, a rebate portion that will help them from whatever we receive from the collections.
Oh, so they get to do like fundraising.
Exactly.
Okay. You get the kids to work,
So, and part of doing the collection event is our team will go out to the school and do a little presentation for the kids so that they can be educated on why recycling e-waste properly matters and what happens to it, where does it end up. So that's a program that we put together and we're starting to deliver on more.
Okay. So I guess in the US and California, this is like up to the companies. The state helps, but it sounds like the companies have to do a lot of the education.
Correct.
I guess I'm thinking of in Taiwan where the Environmental Protection Agency of Taiwan is doing a lot of this outreach and marketing, and they have this huge recycling fund. And I feel anyway, living in Taiwan, there's like a lot more information about dealing with e-waste. Even if I just had e-waste, I feel like someone would just take it from, if I just left it outside my house, I feel like it'd be gone in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's correct. It's left on us to do the advertising, to do the education. Like I mentioned before, we do have third-party interested party groups like BAN who also, promote recycling portion on the responsibility and the environmental impact.
Interesting.
From what I see.
If you look at any country, like a high recycling rate is always predicted by, the manufacturer fee. So in California, for CalRecycle, the consumer is paying the fee, not the manufacturer. I think that's even like a really big fundamental change, right? Because the manufacturer's like, cool, I'm just going to make a TV, But in Taiwan, they have to think about, I'm paying this fee. I have to make this product. I have to make it easier to recycle. And you can even see examples of, basic stuff like laundry dials. And you compare like a laundry machine dial between Taiwan, the US, and Europe. And the US one has like 3 different types of plastic, metal, something in there. The European one is maybe 1 or 2, and then Taiwan is maybe 1 or 2 different types of plastic, most. And it's just very simple design, easy to dismantle, because the incentives are there. But if you're in California, maybe at most of the planet, you're just going to be making whatever. You're not concerned about recyclability.
Yeah, and manufacturer-driven programs work out the best. Just
right.
Like what you said, then the manufacturer manufactures their products so that it's easier to recycle then.
Right.
And
I'm not going to make you guys talk about how manufacturers have fought extended producer responsibility legislation, but I'll talk about that on my own. That's me. That's my own opinion. It's not you guys. But before we wrap up and I kind of philosophize about how to deal with electronic waste at a macro level, let's zoom in and leave people, California residents, but maybe even beyond. Let's leave people with some tips about how they can deal with their electronic waste. What are some things that how can people find you guys? How can people find events? What do you guys do with your electronic waste?
So if you're in the Southern California region, you could always look us up on our website, cwsb2b.com. But if you're anywhere else and for some reason you don't like our company, you don't want to talk to us because you hear this podcast or something, you can always look under the CalRecycle website. They have approved collectors and recyclers listed on their website, and you could choose anyone that's local to you or sounds pleasing to your taste by the company name. But those are ways that you can look up where you can dispose of your electronics properly.
Okay, I think that's general to other countries as well, right? I mean, you could just check out your EPA, your whatever your recycling body is, and they hopefully have a directory if they're doing a good job.
Correct.
Okay.
Or for specifically Southern California, if you're driving around, just look around the different cities. There's usually banners that are posted to get the information out as to when the next collection will be. Or even if you walk into the majority of businesses, for example, Office Depot or Best Buy, you can look around or ask around for electronic recycling efforts.
Okay. It sounds like just be a thoughtful consumer. You spend time researching and reviewing different electronic products. Spend a little time, figuring out how to throw them away. Do you have any, maybe you don't want to say anything about what policies would make it easier for recyclers in the state of California, but do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, if I may,
sure.
One thing that would help with the recycling programs, not just the displays. CalRecycle does a great job with the displays, the TVs, monitors, whatnot. But if they could include different types of e-waste into the program, like printers,
Printers aren't included in the program right now.
The only devices included in the program are the monitors and TVs.
Oh, interesting. So not even laptops or
laptops included because it has a monitor.
Okay, so stuff with screens.
Screens, exactly.
Okay.
Anything with the display screen. But you see a large number of printers, you see a large number of keyboards, you see a large number of VCRs. I could go down the line, DVD players,
Right.
But a lot of that is not included in the program. So you're seeing most of those materials ending up in recyclers or overseas improper recycling.
That makes sense because the screen is valuable. The screen has a value decided by the state. Everything else is kind of, I think this gets bundled in like miscellaneous.
Exactly. And the reason for that is because the screens have the most toxicity, meaning the lead, the mercury lamps.
Right.
DVD players, printers, it has the printed circuit boards, but it's not as high of toxicity as the lamps. But you have to look at the whole. So if there was a program in place where, they're doing the same thing as, the displays, to some type of fee on the electronics itself.
Okay.
I think that'll help with the consumer portion as well.
I mean, I agree. I think if we look at waste management in the US compared to Europe, compared to Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, there's a very obvious missing gap, and that's that the US, and this is just Nate's own opinion, the US doesn't have like a federal waste management law. There's no consistency between the states. Even a leading state like California, we're missing, electronic devices, keyboards, you said things without screens. That also extends to types of packaging. So it's not just specific to e-waste. This is a challenge across the recycling spectrum. And you have all this commingled plastic. And it seems like in the US, there just isn't a lot of thought put into kind of the end of life phase, even for a place like California. And then there's not a connection between manufacturers and waste. And that comes from extended producer responsibility. And, Taiwan, when they did this, Taiwan was not the richest country in the world when it did extended producer responsibility, and it did it relatively quickly. And now Taiwan has a very high recycling rate. And that's one of the reasons. There's still problems. It's not perfect. There's always leakage and they don't capture everything, but it's a lot higher than California, I think. I need to compare that. So I think in general, it's been illuminating talking with corporate e-waste solutions because I think a lot of people don't understand what happens to electronic waste. Maybe it just piles up in their shed. They might not realize that actually there is a good end of life supply chain for these products. It's not like if you recycle your TV, it's just going to get burnt somewhere in some other country. There is a supply chain. There is demand we see from people, and your actions as a consumer do matter. What you say to manufacturers, what you say to your community, the pressure you put on your job. If you work in an IT company, maybe take an interest in what happens to your servers when you buy new servers. I think that we're not just passive players with waste. There's a lot that just normal people can do to improve things. So thank you so much, John and Raymond, for taking us on a tour, for showing us around, for being so honest, just showing us how it all works. It was a lot of fun for me. I love looking at trash. So thank you so much, and hope to come back again in the future and talk with you guys and see how things change.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming by.
Thank you. All right. Till next time. I'm Nature Nate, and this has been the Waste Not Why Not podcast, recorded at Future Ward, a co-working space in Taipei, Taiwan. Do you have a question for us? Tweet them at us. We are Waste Not Pod on Twitter, and our DMs are open. Subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever. Give us a good rating to let us know you really care. This has been a Ghost Island Media production. This episode was produced by Emily Y. Wu and myself, Nature Nate, edited by Yu-Chen Lai. Special shout out to Pic Collage for letting us crash on their couch. That was very coolage of you. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Nate, why should I listen to this episode? Well, technology companies are making their products harder to recycle and repair to rip you off. Wow, that's provocative. Shout out to iFixit for donating. I've been watching way too many computer repair videos lately. Maybe that's why.